Have you ever just felt that the whole pursuit of happiness is, well, exhausting? Like we're always being told to add more, get more, be more. Well, there was this ancient Greek philosopher, Epicurus, who had a totally different take. He saw philosophy not as some stuffy academic debate, but as a kind of practical medicine for the soul, a way to actually heal our anxieties and find some real, lasting peace. And that's the big question right at the heart of Epicureanism. It completely flips our modern idea of happiness on its head. See, instead of chasing these fleeting moments of joy, Epicurus was all about getting to a stable state of tranquility. But to do that, he first had to figure out, what exactly is it that's messing with our minds in the first place? So Epicurus believed that most of our unhappiness, our anxiety, really boils down to a few core fears. He saw them as these universal illnesses of the soul. And just like any good doctor, he knew you have to diagnose the sickness before you can even think about prescribing a cure. And here's his diagnosis. Epicurus zeroed in on four big fears that he thought were poisoning our minds and holding us back from living a peaceful life. First, this fear of the gods, divine punishment. Second, the terror of our own death. Third, the dread of physical pain and suffering. And finally, that constant nagging anxiety that we just don't have what we need to be happy. These are the big four problems he set out to solve. And this is absolutely central to his whole project. For Epicurus and his followers, who would meet up in this place they called the garden, philosophy wasn't about showing off how smart you were. It was therapy. He actually said, "Vain is the word of a philosopher which does not heal any suffering of man." I mean, how powerful is that? So what was his prescription for these four big fears? He called it the tetrapharmakos. It sounds complicated, but it literally just means the four-part cure. It was a simple, memorable, and really powerful set of principles designed to be a direct antidote to each of those four anxieties we just talked about. You can almost think of it as a little pocket guide to mental peace. Okay, let's break this cure down. Part 1, don't fear the gods. They're perfect, they're blissful, and frankly, they're way too busy being awesome to worry about our messy human lives. Part 2, don't worry about death. Epicurus thought this fear was completely irrational, and he had some killer logic to back it up. Part 3, what is good, the stuff we actually need to be happy, is easy to get. And finally, part 4, what is terrible, like pain, is easy to endure. Why? Because really intense pain is usually over quickly, and the chronic stuff, well, it's manageable. This quote just perfectly nails his argument about death. It's so simple, it's brilliant. His point is that death is just the end of sensation, the end of consciousness. So we can't ever actually experience being dead. It's a state of, well, nothingness for us. So why on earth would we waste our precious time alive worrying about something we will never, ever feel? All right, now this is where Epicureanism gets misunderstood all the time. When people hear Epicurean, they think of luxury, wild parties, just pure hedonism. But for Epicurus, oh man, that couldn't be further from the truth. His idea of pleasure was way more subtle, way wiser, and ultimately a whole lot more satisfying. So to get to this wise pleasure, Epicurus basically created a system for managing our desires. He broke it down into 3 categories. First, you have the natural and necessary stuff: food, water, shelter. His advice: always satisfy these, no question. Then you've got natural but not necessary desires, like fancy gourmet food instead of simple bread. He'd say, sure, enjoy these, but in moderation. Don't go crazy. And here's the kicker, the 3rd category, the not natural and not necessary desires. This is fame, power, immense wealth. His advice here was crystal clear. Avoid these completely. They are a bottomless pit of anxiety, and they will never, ever make you happy. And this right here gets to the absolute core of it all. Epicurean pleasure isn't about that giddy high, that fleeting moment of euphoria. It's about getting to a deep, lasting state of peace, a life free from disturbance. And he had very specific words for the 2 main ingredients of this state. The first one is aponia. This basically means the absence of physical pain. This is the bedrock, the foundation of happiness for an Epicurean. Before you can ever have peace of mind, your body can't be in distress. It's about satisfying those basic needs, so you're not hungry, not thirsty, not cold. You're just physically at ease. And once you have aponia, that sets the stage for the ultimate goal, atauraxia. This is the absence of mental and emotional turmoil. It's that serene, untroubled, tranquil mind that you get when you really apply that 4-part cure. When you truly get that the gods, death, and pain aren't worth fearing, and that all you really need is simple. That feeling right there, for Epicurus, that is happiness. So, where does this philosophy fit into the big picture? I mean, Epicureanism was a huge deal back in the Hellenistic period, but it definitely wasn't the only game in town. In fact, its main rival provides a really fascinating contrast. I'm sure you've heard of Stoicism. Now, both of these philosophies were aiming for tranquility, but their roadmaps were totally different. One huge difference was their take on public life. A Stoic, like the Emperor Marcus Aurelius, would say it's your duty to participate in politics, to rule, to endure all that stress for the greater good. An Epicurean? They'd give the exact opposite advice. Withdraw from that whole anxiety factory. Live unknown, they'd say. Just find your peace with a small group of good friends. And that brings us right back to today. Honestly, in a world that is just constantly screaming at us to want more, buy more, post more, and be more, Epicurus' advice feels more relevant than ever, doesn't it? His whole philosophy is like this perfect, timeless antidote to consumer culture and hustle culture. It teaches us that maybe, just maybe, happiness isn't in that next purchase or that next promotion, but in learning to appreciate the simple, essential things we already have. So I'll just leave you with this to chew on. If you put on your Epicurean glasses and look at the world today, what are those vain and unnecessary desires that create so much anxiety? You know, the chase for social media fame, for insane wealth, for power. What are the things that distract us from a life of real, tranquil pleasure? It's a question that's about 2,300 years old, but man, it has never been more important to ask.
If a question made you stop and think, take one more second. Philosophy doesn't give easy answers, it teaches you how to ask better questions. Like the video if you enjoy thinking. Follow Philosophy LM and keep searching together.